Hello, this is Greg. Thank you for joining. Ben, if you're on the call, we can't hear you or see you.
Hi. Okay, this is Bun. I will put in. I wasn't gonna let anybody see me, but okay.
No problem. No problem. You don't have to. No. Just want to let you know if you were trying to. It's not working, but it's okay.
Yeah, I didn't. I guess I could. I'll open up the camera. I just have it blocked.
No problem. You don't have to. You could leave it off. It's fine. Okay, but you can hear us fine, which is good.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit early. It's going to start at 3:05, but this kind of stuff sometimes it doesn't work, so we all get it set up early.
Yeah.
And just let you know this is on Facebook Live, so that you know that. And we expect other people to be joining, so just hang tight for now. But you're welcome to chat with me about other things or about this topic as well if you want. But we're just a little bit early, just trying to make sure that we don't have technical issues.
Okay. Well, thank you for having this meeting. I actually witnessed the accident from across the street.
Oh my God, can you tell me more? I'd love to hear your first-hand account as to what happened.
I was actually on the opposite corner from what was happening. That was the four-way corner on California Avenue and El Camino. So I was actually across on the opposite corner, and there was 3 other high school girls that were on bicycles, and I was walking the dog back from Molly Stone, and we heard a big boom, and we were like, oh my God. And the girls that was with me, they saw the whole thing. I heard it, and then I saw the accident after. I saw the truck and the body and the bike and all that after. And I think our first reaction was, oh my God, did he hit the mailbox? Did he go on the sidewalk? What happened? And then we realized, I looked, and I wanted so bad to see the legs move or something. And it was just, that was it. And we were just completely freaked out. And there was a white truck that blocked the scene. And he yelled for us to call 911, and none of us could get our phones out to do it well enough. And one of the girls dialed 911, and we all jumped in and said to get the ambulance here. So I witnessed it, and I actually bike that corner all the time. I walk there, I bike there, I do all kinds of stuff. And I think it was around 7:40 that night, and it was very busy. That whole evening was very busy, even though it was the evening. There was always somebody there walking or crossing or biking.
So you were this happened near the Wells Fargo, right? The corner of the Wells Fargo.
Yes.
And so you were on the opposite kitty corner, kind of where that fitness.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Pilates studio was, and we were waiting for the light to turn.
Okay.
The crazy part for me was I almost crossed to the Citibank side, and I was going to cross over and walk that way because the sidewalk was, because I have a dog, and I was thinking that it's a better walk path. I almost crossed over there, and then in that way I would have been directly from the accident, but I decided to stay put because the girls' bikes were so cool. I was checking their bikes out on that corner. But I wanted to speak to you because that corner is never not busy. So we have to do something about it.
Yeah, I take that corner all the time. My kids take that corner all the time. My kids, my daughter goes to Green. She's 1 year ahead of Paul. And I mean, I know a lot of kids do, right? And even as an adult, I don't feel safe on that corner. So
yeah, me too. So I bike to the yoga studio. I'm a yoga instructor at Avalon. So I bike to the studio, and I bike there to take classes, and I take the exact path that Paul did. So what I do is I would bike to the light, and that corner is so risky that I would go on the sidewalk at the very end. There's a section where you can hop onto the sidewalk, and then I would hit the go button. So, I mean, I read a bunch of people saying like he was on the sidewalk. I just think that it's totally unfair because I hop on the sidewalk at the very end section to hit the light.
Yeah.
And then I would hover there. And me being an adult, I would look at the left to make sure that car wasn't turning. It's totally unfair to have a kid getting onto the sidewalk and expect him to not to look 5 times. It's just not right. You know, like he should have the right to go when that man turned green to go. So and I mean I heard people say it was illegal to get onto the sidewalk, blah blah blah, but you know what, I get on the sidewalk because I want to hit that light.
Yeah.
So
I also do the same thing. I hit the light too. And then you know, because theoretically as a biker you could take the lane and just block the cars turning right, but the cars behind you will honk you, right? They'll yell at you, right? And so it's very intimidating to do that. And so
I've taken the lane if there was more than one biker with me. Like if there was 2 of us, we would take the lane and I'll just stay there. And I'm like, sorry, you gotta wait. But when I'm alone, I wouldn't do it. You know, even hovering at that green right turn biker's lane is still dangerous. I mean, it's way too dangerous. So I hop on the sidewalk.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. So what do you know what caused the big noise? Why was it like, why was that big boom? What caused that?
I believe that it was the impact.
That
when we heard it, but it was so crazy that we thought that, I think the girls and I my first thought was like, oh, did the truck go on a sidewalk and hit the mailbox or the light, or, you know, like just a big impact. You can hear it. So my thought was that he went on the sidewalk, but it wasn't. It was the impact. Once we walked, we saw the impact and we're like, oh my God, that was the truck hitting the bike.
Wow.
And the way the bike was laid and the body was laid and the truck was at, I knew that he did not go on, you know, the truck didn't hit the sidewalk, obviously. So
he must have been turning really fast then. I mean, in order to have such a loud noise, right? I mean, it would.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big vehicle. It was my first thought was like, it was a tow truck. It was like a flatbed tow truck. So it was a big vehicle that made the right turn. That's what I saw.
Yeah, it was a flatbed tow truck, I think. From what I heard. But
I mean, it's a big flatbed. So so I think if you hit anything with that kind of vehicle, it's loud. So I heard the loud noise and the girls and, you know, we heard this huge loud thing. And I just thought, well, maybe the truck just made a sharp right turn and hit the sidewalk, but I didn't expect anybody to get hit.
I wonder if sometimes, you know, if you go out on the curb, right, and then the wheels fall down, the whole truck comes down, then you hear a loud boom that way.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I really thought that was what it was. But the girls that was with me on their bicycles, standing where I was across the light, they saw the truck hitting Paul and they saw the whole impact and they saw the running over of the body and all that too. So I did not see that. I heard it and then I saw the result after, and we ran across the street to call 911.
It's so tragic. Okay, so it's now 3:05, so we're gonna begin. So let me just thank everyone for joining. There might be more people that joined. A lot of times people have trouble knowing how to book Zoom properly. So people will probably trickle in. So let me just quickly introduce myself. So I'm Greg Tanaka. I'm on the Palo Alto City Council. I'm also a very avid biker. I actually take that intersection almost daily. My kids do as well. My daughter's only 1 year ahead of Paul at Green. You know, I bike almost everywhere in the city. So for me, this is something that's I think we want to understand more about what happened and understand what are potential ways of solving this. So yeah, we're fortunate actually to have one person. And do you pronounce your name Ben, or how do you pronounce your name? Anyways, so we have someone here that actually has a firsthand account of seeing what happened, which is great. I think you're the first person I've talked to has actually witnessed the event. Just let everyone know this is on Facebook Live. And Max here has been doing some work on protected bike lanes as ways to try to help help improve bike safety. And actually, I think it would be really great. I know you told me the story, but for the people that are just joining, I'm not sure if many people have heard a firsthand account about what happened, but I don't know if you'd be willing just to just spend maybe 30 seconds giving kind of a quick overview about what you saw, and then we could go into discussion about what people's thoughts are and suggestions on what we could do to try to prevent a tragedy like this from happening again. So, Ben, can you how do you pronounce your name? Because I don't want to.
You can say bun, like
Bun.
BUN.
Okay, Bun. Okay,
There's
so
an
Bun.
accent on the I. I think
Sorry.
most people just go by Ben, but I'm annoyed with that. So you can say bun, like
Bun.
BUN.
Okay, sorry. Bun. Maybe
Um,
because I don't think there are too many people here who had a firsthand account. So I don't know if you could talk a little bit about what happened.
yeah, it was the most devastating thing that happened that I've ever witnessed live, and I didn't want to reveal that I saw it for a while until I saw this, but I was coming back from Molly Stone walking with my dog. I was walking home from Molly Stone with the dog across cat a corner from the accident scene at the El Camino in California Avenue. Um, I stood at that corner to wait for the light to cross over to the other side, and there was three high school girls. I eventually talked to them after the whole thing was over that they were high school girls and they were crossing the same corner as me, and we were just standing there, and we heard this loud bang, and we looked over and saw this big vehicle that turns out to be a tow truck, a tow flatbed, and we witnessed the girls. I just like went blank, like, oh my god, what just happened? And because it was so loud, I thought the truck went onto the sidewalk, but it wasn't. It was an impact with the bicycle, and we saw the bicycle lane like completely distorted. We saw the body, it didn't move. A man who came out was behind that vehicle, blocked the intersection so people couldn't cross it, and he ran and told us to call 911. And yeah, and at that point the girls were totally wigging out because they're like, oh my god, is that a kid? And then we were just shaken, and it was awful. And we stayed there for a little bit, and we saw the ambulance came and the fire trucks came. They put a cover on him, and we were just, the girls were hovering, calling their parents, and I walked home, and I was just completely devastated. So, and I bike that corner. I walk at that corner. At that time, there's quite a bit of people. It was about 7:30, 7:40, 8 o'clock. And there was, when I crossed that way to go to Molly Stone, there was a lot of people crossing. In fact, when I crossed over, I was on that side. When I went home, I was on the opposite side. That corner is constantly busy, and it was the evening time. So I wanted to be part of this to explain that I've had near accidents there on my bicycles as an adult, and seeing that this happened, we need to do something.
Yeah, but no, I totally agree. It's an incredible tragedy, and as I mentioned, I take this corner a lot myself. I mean, almost daily, and my kids do. My daughter also goes green, just 1 year ahead of Paul. She takes it every day too. So it's and even as an adult, I would go and press the button on the crosswalk just because I'm trying to signal that I'm going to cross, and also like some of the cars, they don't really, you're supposed to stop and then turn, right? Some of them, they just kind of turn. And so you don't, as a bicyclist, you don't feel necessarily that safe sometimes. So, okay, great. Thank you for sharing the story. I know it's hard to tell. I would love to just give everyone else a chance on the call to just quickly introduce yourself, and then love to hear your perspective on this.
Okay, my name is Leslie. I live in the neighborhood. I also cycle regularly. My daughter cycles down that road, just like every other middle school and high school student. I have often felt insecure at that crossing, the one a little bit further north, and also Stanford Avenue. And after this terrible incident, I thought there must be a way to advocate for improvement at that and other crossings. So I just wanted to be part of a conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think there's improvement. It's I think traffic engineers really need to look at this closely and figure out like what can be fixed. It's not a really wide street, so I think there's limitations to what can be done. But yeah, no. So you live here in College Terrace, or you live in Evergreen, the other side?
I live on the College Terrace side.
Oh, me too. Okay. Okay.
A good friend of mine, a Stanford graduate, is now or has been the bicycle czar at Boston, and I talked to her about what one can do for these kind of things, and she made several pretty concrete suggestions about organizations to consult with, but also was looking at the general design of the intersection and how wide El Camino is, and that little intersection right before the cross, like you kind of sink as a pedestrian, so you're just like even 3 inches lower than you would be normally. So I know there are some scientific and structural improvements that could be made, but the question is, how does one advocate for those kind of improvements?
Did your friend have any suggestions on this particular intersection as to what?
Actually, many concrete suggestions, including organizations or groups that one could consult with for improved bikeways. I was not taking notes during my conversation, but certainly could follow up on those. I was hoping that you would have more educated voices in the conversation than mine. So
yeah. Well, I mean, for me, this is a chance to hear the community's thoughts, right? I think there's been, of course, a lot of discussion on next door. And for me, as a council member, I think it's important to hear the community's perspective. And so, I mean, we're still going to get expert traffic engineering, stuff done. But I think also, especially, this is like on a corner of my neighborhood. I'm in College Terrace, and so I take this intersection a lot. I have kids that take this intersection a lot. So, so I think us as people that live here and go up by the intersection all the time, we have some inherent knowledge because of that. So and perspectives that maybe a traffic engineer who's looking at this for the first time would not have. So anyways, but yeah, thank you, Leslie, for sharing that. Does anyone else want to kind of introduce themselves or share their perspective? I know there's a couple of people on the phone, but I don't know if you're saying something, you guys are on mute. So just to be clear here. Okay, so okay, we'll go on then, unless someone else says something. So Max, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff you've done in terms of just investigating? So let me just preface this. So about a year ago, Cambridge, which is near Boston, Cambridge, Massachusetts, had a program of having protected bike lanes, right? Basically trying to separate the cars from the bikes, with the idea that there's not when it's just paint, right, protecting the bicycle, sometimes that's not enough, right? Sometimes people don't feel safe. Sometimes they'll be on a sidewalk. Sometimes they'll do other things. Max, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff you've researched.
Yeah, sure. I'm a senior at Gun High School, and I've been working with Greg for almost 3 years now. And I think the issue really hits home to me. I'm first going to start off with some background. I think the issue really hits home to me since actually I think last December I actually got hit by a car when I was biking. Fortunately, it was in the Mitchell Park Community Center parking lot, and neither of us were going at a very fast speed, so I was able to walk away with very minor injuries. But I think to hear that incident happening in March, I was actually out of the state at that time. But when I heard that incident, it was just really personal to me, since I thought, well, that could have been me. I mean, I don't live near the area, so I don't bike on that intersection a lot. But on any other intersection, like it could have definitely been me. So I think that's why the issue was really hit home to me. And with Greg, one of the biggest projects I'm working on is really improving the bike lanes in the city and making sure that this city is safer for bikers. So lately I've been working on a project where we're looking into protected bike lanes similar to what they have in Cambridge. And to give you some preface for this, what protected bike lane is, currently most roads, what it is, there's the car lanes, then there's the bike lane, then there's parked cars. So in protected bike lanes, what you effectively do is you switch the parked cars with the bike lanes. So first goes cars, parked cars, then bike lanes. So what happens is you have a natural barrier of parked cars that makes it easier for the bikers and makes them feel more safe. So an example of this is on Arastradero Road. They recently, on a very small section, they have a protected bike lane there.
Welcome to the call. Sorry, Max, why don't you keep going?
I'm done.
Okay. So yeah, thank you, Max, for sharing. And also just for me, because I do bike a lot, and I could tell you that there've been many times where I almost been clipped by a car turning right. And it's as a bicyclist, it's something which is really scary. So like at night, I'm like a Christmas tree. I have lights everywhere on my head and my back. I have blinking lights everywhere. But yeah, I do think, you know, having some inherent safety where you aren't just relying on the safety or the awareness of the driver is also important. So we had just a few people who joined the call. You know, we're talking about bike safety, especially in light of the death on the corner of El Camino in California. I'm Councilmember Tanaka. A lot of people have already been sharing some of their perspectives on this. I don't know for the people that joined, if you guys want to share some of your thoughts on how do we improve bike safety. So the purpose of this call really is for me to get feedback from the community on thoughts on what we could do to kind of prevent a incident like this from happening again. So I don't know for the couple of people that did just joined, if you guys want to share some of your thoughts.
Hey, hi, this is Matthew Bernard. If you give me a couple of minutes, so on the call, sorry, I thought it was moved to 6 p.m., but I misread the local time. I would be happy to do that. I just need to get settled.
No problem. Okay. For the other people that joined that haven't spoken, do you guys, if you guys want to, you guys are welcome to share some of your thoughts. Okay, and by the way, people are on mute, so if you guys are trying to say something, you're muted right now. So just want to make sure that people are aware.
Hi, Greg. I'm Bun Haynes here.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on having all four corners, the light stays red, and the pedestrian walk gets a head start on the crossing, and no right turn at that corner, period, until the pedestrian cross light stops? Is that something that's doable? I feel like for the kids' sakes, you know, for grown-ups, I mean, we're a little more careful there, but for the kids' sakes, is that possible to do something like that at that corner?
I've seen this done for a lot of other intersections. Now, El Camino, California is kind of a special, well, not special, but it's kind of a different intersection in that you have, so El Camino is actually Highway 82. So it's not something necessarily under full city control. So you guys probably noticed that like our stretch of El Camino in Palo Alto is pretty torn up, right? It's pretty bumpy and stuff like that. And it's actually controlled by the state. So so it does take coordination between different agencies to do things. This is also part of the reason why like Embarcadero and El Camino is a bit of a train wreck in terms of its signaling and stuff like that. So it is something that we should maybe consider. So for me, it's hard for me to say yes or no, absolutely, because you would definitely a traffic engineer needs to study this thing very, very closely. But to me, it kind of makes logical sense. I mean, the other thing I've thought about also is, does it make sense to have a crossing guard there? Now, of course, at the time that this happened, there wouldn't have been a crossing guard there at that time. But I've been thinking about what else could we do? On this stretch of California, the street's a little bit narrow, so it's probably hard to have a true protected bike lane there. But maybe there's other things that we could do. But I do think that giving the pedestrians and bikers a head start, like it happens a lot in San Francisco, like all the lights turn, allow people to walk, and then the cars come later, and that way the bikes could get in front of the cars, so that the drivers see the people in the intersection, and they don't, make right turns on people, because there's probably at least a dozen times when I almost got hit on the right turn. So I could definitely understand the idea behind that.
And how easy is it to influence the state for that kind of suggestion? Do they have the last say, and the city of Palo Alto has no say in terms of what can be done on El Camino? How does it work? Is there like a good relationship in the
I
kind
think
of
it's a good
discussion?
relationship, but I think it's definitely a negotiation. It's not under the full control of the city. So it's I think unfortunately the process tends to be slower when there's two government agencies trying to work together, unfortunately. But I don't think this adversarial relationship, I think they do want to make things better. But it's not as easy as if it was just all within the city's control.
If I could relay secondhand again some information from Nicole Friedman, who was the person I mentioned earlier. I asked her about this notion of stopping all traffic and allowing pedestrians to cross. And her comment to me was that because El Camino is it actually 6 lanes across?
Yeah, it's pretty wide.
That it's just not used in those instances. But she did mention 2 things. One is that the center median is extremely narrow and would never be designed that way. Now, she, as I said, lived here and cycled for 8 years, so I was very familiar with it. She says it's far too narrow. I know that wasn't a factor in the accident, but she also mentioned the possibility of a quick fix or a quick action being installing their semi-permanent pylons, which protect just the very beginning of a pedestrian crossing where it sinks slightly below the street level and makes visibility difficult for vehicles. So just quick fixes that could be done with a minimum of investment while a greater study was undertaken.
So just to be clear, you said the center median is too narrow. Which part of that do you mean?
Well, the center median, which separates the opposing traffic, that's supposed to be I've forgotten what the actual term is, a site of refuge or something, or for
yeah.
Can't
Yeah,
get
you're talking about an El Camino, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's apparently now the standard is quite a lot wider than it was in those days. So there is actually no or cycle or crossing.
Lee, I think you're maybe mute yourself. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, yeah, okay. So that's good point. Although El Camino is already designed, so it's kind of hard to change it now. But that's a good point. And then you were saying installing a pylon. And what did you talk, like what particular part were you talking about?
She mentioned that there's, again, I wasn't taking notes, so I don't know the correct name for it, but it's some kind of permanently installed pylons that happen at the beginning of the pedestrian entrances to each crossing, which allows a little bit more protection for the pedestrian as they're beginning to cross, doesn't impede the right turns, but makes vehicles make a wider right turn to go around, so you can't clip the corner.
I've seen that. Yeah. So it kind of yeah. So it's kind of like adds a little protection, right? So that yeah.
And it's not an elaborate fix and it's not a permanent fix, but it's certainly something which she said could be done, with a minimum amount of time and investment as sort of a placeholder reaction to things.
Sure.
But he indicated that she or a number of other organizations would have much more elaborate and deep thinking suggestions.
Sure. Okay. Definitely appreciate that.
Anna?
There's a few people who have joined. So we're talking about bike safety on El Camino and California Ave, but bike safety also in general. So just want to give people a chance who've just joined to introduce themselves and also maybe share your perspective on the accident and also what we can do going forward to try to alleviate some of these issues. And this is just for me to hear the community's voice in terms of suggestions, because a lot of people here are neighbors or people that live or use this intersection quite frequently. So does anyone want to share some perspective on this? If you are, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, hi. So, hi, so my name is Matthew Bonner. I moved to the Bay Area about 2 years ago. Before that, I was in New York City. And I guess where it's relevant is that, maybe in New York City, people walk more than they drive.
Yeah.
And one of the things that surprised me when moving here was, and that maybe could be a quick fix, is that the pedestrian crossings, few of them are zebra crossing, meaning it's just like two lanes of white paint, and usually it's very old white paints, especially on El Camino. And to me, just like painting like true zebra crossing in, I don't know if it's white or any color, just makes the crossing much more visible from from a car or any vehicle than just these two lanes that are in very worn out white. And this is what I used to see a lot more in more walking cities like New York. So maybe that would be like a short-term fix. And my broader thought, and it's something that I like to take to the city council, and I don't know if you've seen a deck I've sent. The other thing that really surprised me when moving here is that Palo Alto and the old Bay Area is a place where vehicles, cars are first-class citizen, and anything else is second or third-class citizen. Pedestrians, bicycles, and I think there's beyond these quick fixes, there are a lot of things that I think could be done to make it a little easier for bicycle and pedestrians to move around in Palo Alto, and to more difficult for cars to, own the place and the roads. But that's not for today. But I guess here it's more a question to you. How could I, voice that kind of concern to a broader audience, city audience? Maybe it's the city council. I don't know.
Well, I'm on city council, so you're talking one of the 7 council members. But definitely writing into the city council helps. I'm trying to get the next council meeting early next month to be so that people could zoom in and give public comment. Right now, the last Monday's meeting was the first time we actually used Zoom for council members, but I'm trying to make it so that the public could also do this, could also zoom in.
Great.
Because it's hard now because of the shelter in place to actually come to City Hall.
Sure.
And so that's another way though, is either writing in or emailing in, or hopefully zooming in soon.
Great.
And so El Camino, you guys probably noticed El Camino itself is like really torn up, right? It's like a few years past needing to get repaved. And so I think I should look at the exact date, but I think it's coming up for this year, if I'm not mistaken, to get repaved. But so probably at that time, a lot of the painting can be done. But if you look at, like when I cross El Camino, especially when I cross on my skateboard, it's the crevices in that road are so big and so deep that, I mean, if someone has high heels or a skateboard wheel, it could get stuck in there totally, right? So it's probably hard to paint that right now because it's the road's so like torn up right now. But I think once they repave it, I think making it more visible, like you said, zebra crossings or something where it's highly visible that pedestrians are crossing would be the right thing to do, right? And also, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I have to go look at a map again, but I'm not sure if it's also straight, the crosswalk. I think it's
I think you're right. Yeah,
I think it's a little bit crooked. So so I think there's ways to try to make it safer. But thank you for sharing your thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. I mean, the Zoom for the city council would be great. So thanks for pushing that. Another thought I had, and maybe and this is less of a cheaper option. I was thinking, when you cross the Caltrain tracks driving, there's a gate that prevents that helps protect the cars from the train. And I was wondering, could we have similar gates on El Camino that would protect pedestrians and bikes from the cars? And I was, a thought I had was, if you put the gates right at the intersection, then it doesn't work because, the incoming traffic from, California or other streets wouldn't be able to make a right turn. But if you move the crossing further down the intersection, then you can leave some space for the cars to make a right turn on El Camino or a turn on El Camino and stop. And then you have a gate that essentially protects pedestrians and bikes, very similar to the Caltrain tracks.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen that before.
Me neither.
It's an interesting idea. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think right now, I think there's no bad ideas. I think it's just trying to brainstorm and have ideas of what else we could do. So I know that there's a few people who joined who hadn't had a chance to say some of their thoughts. I don't know if anyone here that's on the call wants to share any thoughts or comments on this incident or on suggestions on what we could do to try to make it better.
Hi, Greg, it's Bun again.
Please.
I noticed on not El Camino, but in Redwood City, I think Middlefield, going towards Costco, I noticed that when pedestrian, for a while back, it was just a free will crossing. When people wanted to cross that Middlefield intersection, it was kind of a wild, wild west. But now there's a button that you can push, and they have a very defined pedestrian cross. These guys push the button, the light pops up and it blinks and it indicates to the cars that somebody wants to cross. Maybe that's the better way to do this. Is there a sense of urgency now that we had a minor accident, a child that happened there? I mean, is this something that we can push it forward, or we're just having discussions? Because to me, I feel like this is kind of an urgency now, because we all feel that it's an unsafe spot. Yeah. But yet we haven't done anything to it, and now we're having a discussion. So what is it that it takes for us to take this to the next level? Do you need tons of signatures? Because I'll start it. I'm like,
I think all that would help too. So for me, I'm on the council. I'm probably the most, the person that probably bikes the most on council. So I feel very passionate about this particular topic. And so I'm going to be pushing for it. But again, by myself, I don't really have power. I only have power if my fellow council members also support this. And so definitely writing in to council, trying to get other council members to make this a priority. For me, it's definitely a priority, but I need the help of my other colleagues to kind of elevate this from just another accident to, no, we need to fix it, right? This is not acceptable, right? We want to make sure that our, especially our kids, right? Our kids, a lot of them can't drive, right? They're not old enough to drive. And so they have to be safe, right? I think it's really, really important that our kids in our community are safe when they bike, because that's the main way they get around. So to me, it's a really high priority, but to raise this higher, we need to get enough other council members interested in this. So far, I know I'm very interested, but I don't know if other council members I haven't heard of any others so far of the 7, and I need basically 3 more to kind of escalate this to take action, because while I'll be pushing on my side, I can't get real action from the city unless I get 3 more votes, essentially. So yes, good question. Write in a petition would be great. Anything that would help get the attention of my fellow colleagues that this is not acceptable, right? We got to do something better.
And to whom would the, for instance, I wrote into city council, and this is I am in this meeting, but is there a different address, a different way to?
No, that's the thing. It just takes a number. And, this is also the thing I know it's kind of hard, because we don't have, right now you're not supposed to go to City Hall to give public testimony, but I'm trying to get Zoom so people could do this, because I think right now, especially with the COVID-19 situation, right? This is kind of got buried, right? But it's something that's still a problem, and we should still take action on. So yeah, so emails definitely, if you could do Zoom, like a Zoom in, hopefully on the next meeting, that'd be great. Petitions be great, but basically we got to get 3 more council members. We got to escalate this. We got to increase the priority for them Otherwise I could talk about it. I could certainly be a squeaky wheel on this, but I can't take real action unless I have enough other council members on board. And I'm trying to, right? But basically they respond to community input, right? If enough of the community says something, then they will respond. A good question.
Understood. I just had one other comment. One is that when we ride that direction, we often move over to Cambridge to cross El Camino because it's a slightly less trafficked road. Also, we find that the modifications that were made to California a couple of years ago actually make that stretch of road extremely hairy. I find it much more hair-raising than it was in the past, and perhaps Cambridge, the crossing of Cambridge could be considered a bike crossing, official bike crossing area. Although I know
I think it is. I think officially, in fact, there's a crossing guard. I think you talk about Cambridge or Stanford.
Cambridge is Stanford often has a yeah. guard, but I'm speaking of Cambridge, which is a low traffic area, but and is out of the way. I think you'd have a hard sell to get most kids to use it, but it does have less traffic. In any case, that one stretch, I'm curious about the stretch of California in terms of using it as a bike, just the thought process that went into that design, because I find it pretty, as I said, hairy to navigate.
Yeah, well, I hear you on that. So there are a couple of people who joined who hasn't had a chance to say anything. Do you guys want to comment on this incident, ideas on how to make it safer? Anyone, you guys are welcome to speak. Just unmute your microphone so we can hear you though.
Hi everyone, this is Ariane Tirani, and I just joined. I apologize, I did not hear the first half of the conversation. So I don't want to ask about something that has already been discussed. I think just generally speaking, that whole area, like, just California Avenue has become very difficult to navigate. And I also want to say that Cambridge is not safe either, because that is where my daughter almost was hit. And I find that there's something wrong with that light on Cambridge, where cars coming in the opposite direction are not seeing it turn red and have almost hit people in the intersection while crossing. So anyways, I'm sorry if I'm repeating something that's already said, but
No, we haven't heard this before, so please, I love to hear. So how did your daughter almost get hit on Cambridge? I'm just curious.
It is right by AJ Tutoring. That's one of the locations that's really difficult to navigate. She was crossing at, there's a, right where Pop Tea Bar is, there is that area to cross. She was on her bike crossing that area, and there were cars backed up waiting for the pedestrians and her to cross. And a car that was all the way behind got impatient and decided to turn or go around the cars and almost missed her by a hairline while she was in the intersection.
Wow.
And then Cambridge and El Camino, I've seen two cars that are sort of coming down El Camino at two different occasions, and they missed that El Camino light, turn red at Cambridge, and they tend to run that red light. I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but it's happened twice in the past couple of years. And so it's just, I really don't know why that's happening, but it is what it is.
Okay, well, good feedback. Yeah, I think that what Matthew's comment was actually kind of correct, which is that sometimes the cars are first class citizens and everyone else on foot and bike maybe are second class. So that's actually an interesting observation.
If I may,
please.
So just I want there's another intersection that for me is really tricky to cross. It's on Churchill and El Camino. And I'm surprised with Palo Alto High School being right at the corner that not much has been done to facilitate bikes to do that crossing. But I don't know if you bike on Churchill sometime.
My son takes that every day. So my son goes to Pali, and so he lives in College Terrace. So he takes the protected lane that's on the Stanford campus. He takes it all the way to Churchill, then he crosses at El Camino. But I agree with you. It's actually a very tricky intersection because there are a lot of campers that are parked there. And so I tell him when he crosses, he has to kind of peek and make sure that the cars actually stop, right? It's the T intersection, and the visibility is not great. And so yeah, I mean, his whole bike ride there is actually pretty good, except for that one spot. That one spot's really, really tricky.
Yeah, the crossing, yeah.
Yeah, so
What-
I agree with you on that. That's been on my list of intersections that we need to fix.
And sorry, I'm sorry. I'll just maybe one more comment, and then I'll just mute myself until the end. But to try to build some momentum and some around these issues. Maybe one way would be to use forums like Nextdoor to maybe start a petition via all the internet platforms are available, like move.org, or there are a number of platforms where you can start a petition. And maybe we could time this to do that a few weeks ahead of a city council to have enough signature at the city council, and also possibly enough people truly interested in these issues to show up either via Zoom or in person, post-COVID, but try to have a process to really get some attention, some people to really side with your objectives.
Yeah, that's definitely the right thing, right? To try to time it. We've been working on this protected bike lane thing, just try, under the kind of the idea of trying to get more biker safety. But yeah, I think definitely there just has to be more of a